Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Melina Messing. I'm the Scientific Director of Ren-Nu, our Nutrition and Lifestyle program here at Santa Barbara Nutrients. And it's a nutrition and lifestyle program for PKD patients specifically. And it is my great pleasure today to introduce one of our team members, our Director of Nutrition, Kathy Jensen. Kathy is a really key member of our team. As probably if you've been following Ren-Nu for a while, you know that we have a lot of personalized guidance for our patients, and Kathy is really instrumental in providing that personalized guidance, reviewing your labs and talking to you one-on-one, helping you adjust your nutrition to fit your personal needs. And so a really key member. She has a ton of experience as a dietitian, and so yeah, I'm so happy to have her introduce herself a little bit today here and tell you her story and what she's doing for Ren-Nu. So welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. So I have been a dietitian for 50 years. I just got a letter from the academy. I'm like, wow, that's a very long time with a very long history, with an interesting perspective. And one of the first classes that I had when I was in college was a course called Biochemical Individuality. And it was by Roger Williams, PhD. He's since passed, but his wife paid someone to update it because it is so important. And as a dietitian, one of the things that we do that I absolutely love, and I love being a dietitian more today than I ever have in my whole 50 years. And I'll get into that more on the why in just a minute. But what dietitians do best is we take the science. We have to have the science, the biochemistry, the microbiology, all of those kinds of things that are sort of key points with nurses and doctors. And we take the science, then we also have the science of food and nutrition and how that relates to the body. Then we have to look at the whole concept of the person. What's their life like? What is their income situation? What is their ability to cook or not cook? Are they well? Are they not well? Do they have a support system? I mean, we look at a million different parameters. And over time, our brain just goes there. We get so integrated into all of these details that have to come together. So when I'm working with a patient, I'm not set on any one diet because there really is no one diet that fits all. There are a million different diets out there, and I've probably been on most all of them, just to say, if I'm going to recommend a diet, I better know what I'm talking about. And so, it can range from vegan to carnivore and everything in between. And then we have many specialty therapeutic diets and so on. And so the world of dietetics, I think, is fascinating. I love it beyond anything I could have ever done. It was the perfect fit for me. And so when I'm working with patients, I really connect with them at a heart level, because I care. I know the power of nutrition. After 50 years, I have seen so much and been involved in so much healing with individuals. And it's like, I know this, and I have to somehow, some way get you to understand my passion in a way that doesn't come across as preachy, teaching, Yeah, I teach, but I don't want to turn them off to ranting and raving about this, that, or the other, especially with my kids. That's probably my biggest one I have to mute myself on. But I think that when people understand, and really in the world today, people are beginning to understand. They're beginning to see that a lot of the chemicals in our food are not helping us. They're beginning to see that basic gardens, simple, organic gardens are really valuable to the family and really valuable to their health. Simple foods, good cooking, not eating out all the time. There's just so much that people are beginning to get aware of. So what all have I experienced in that 50 years? Well, let me see if I can give you a very quick, in a nutshell. So I come from a family of 7 children, of which I'm the oldest. Small town, about 2,000 people, family-run business. My dad was one of the last independent butter makers in the United States. And I will never, to this day, forget the conversation I had with him when I came back from college, being a snot-nosed, arrogant little student, thinking I knew everything, right? And I said, Dad, we should be eating margarine. And he goes, why? And I told him what we'd been learning, and that was back when margarine was the rage, right? And he goes, no, you should be eating butter because it's cream, salt. That's pretty much all it is. And I'm like, oh no, Dad, so we're having this conversation. Years later, I can look back and go, he was spot on. He was absolutely spot on. And when we made butter in churns of 2,500 pounds. It wasn't just a little bit of butter. It was major butter production. So there's not a pat of butter I don't look at and remember my conversation with my dad, and hope he's listening somewhere up there, because he's since passed on. But through the years, as I've looked at different experiences, I've worked from being in hospitals. I worked 15 and a half years at a mental hospital. And in that particular situation, it was such a wonderful experience because I co-managed a production kitchen. And out of that kitchen, we produced anywhere from 4,700 to 5,200 meals a day. So we had 3 menus, we had huge production, very precise assembly, trucking the stuff out to satellite kitchens. I could take 12 inches of data on nutritional analysis of a menu, drill down to where it was produced, what was the recipe, and what did I want to change in it. And I'll never forget when I was trying to improve the quality of the menu overall, I was taking the sodium from 12,000 milligrams down to about 2,300 milligrams. And that meant changing so many foods. Well, one of the favorite foods, of course, of many of those patients at the mental hospital was hot dogs. Pretty basic food, right? And so I will never forget this guy that was in a kind of a screened off atrium yelling down at me from above. And he goes, Kathy, when do we get our hot dogs back? And so, food matters to people. So I did find him a low sodium hot dog, which they found acceptable. But, when you are sitting there in front of a individual that has done something not so great, and you're trying to convince them that you are going to change their diet and make them happy, and the nurses and the docs are going, you better make them happy because they come back at us, right? So great learning, great experience. I had great team members and a good co-manager that I managed with. So that was a big part of my life. I have always been a farmer at heart. I love farmers. I love cowboys. I mean, it's like that whole rural kind of world, which I grew up in. And so I've done master gardening classes. I've done them twice, where you take the classwork and it's usually the university teaches it. And then you have to go do 50 hours of continuing education. And I loved it so much, I just went back and did it again. So I have loved that. I have co-owned a hemp farm for 3 years and learned all about that industry. And that was quite an eye-opening industry. And then when I was working in dialysis, one of the things that became very useful in teaching the doctors and the patients about was cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. So you'll see oftentimes in renal patients, they'll use marijuana to manage the pain. And so when they start vomiting and you can't find out what the source of that is, then you start asking deeper questions. And so that became one of my common questions was, what are you doing in terms of pain management? And so that became very helpful. And they basically had to stop using, certainly for some people forever and some people for a longer time. And then their body will heal. But they were taking it at such high doses that it was very toxic for them, not little doses. So I've worked with doctors. I'm a member of the Association of Cannabinoid Specialists, which are physicians, many of which have been physicians for a very long time, surgeons. Dr. Jordan Tischler is a ER doc that got tired of watching people die from opioid overdose, that kind of thing. So I've learned so much from all of them, and they're wonderful people. So I've been through that. I've owned a worm farm, and that was fabulous. You could walk in the worm barn. It was a big, long 40 by 60 foot worm barn. We had over 1 million worms. And the point of the worms were worms, and worm castings or worm poop is one of the most nutritious things that you can have in the ground, right? And so my daughter-in-law and my husband, who's since passed away, we were all members of this worm farm. You'd walk in that barn and you knew instantly whether those little critters were happy or not. And so that was a huge amount of physical work. We made compost. We had one composter that did like 7.5 tons in about 30 days. We had another composter that did about 3.5 tons in 30 days. And that's what you feed the worms, is compost. And so I had to learn to drive a skidster. And that skidster and I became best friends over time. so I'm a pretty rural farm girl, I think, if you really kind of sum that up. Technology wise, I have a love-hate relationship with technology. I probably hate it as much as I love it. It has good and bad, as all things. But my technology world started back in the 80s. And I sold some of the first word processing software that was out there, where you had a typewriter that did 1,000 characters and you thought that was a big deal. And you're walking around Houston, Texas with high heels and a wool suit and 90 degrees and 90% humidity, trying to convince lawyers to buy this typewriter. I sold some of the first fax machines that ever came out on the market, and some of the first desktop computers that ever came out on the market. So technology and I go way back. And I've tried really hard to stay up with it as best I can. Thank goodness for some of my team members, because they periodically kind of bring me up to another notch. So technology's been an interesting part of my life as I've worked with it. I've spent a great deal of time in sales, because as a family business, you had to sell something, right? So sales was never a bad word. My dad would put me in a truck the minute I turned 16 and could drive. He put me on a little 1-ton truck and I'd deliver butter and eggs. And I'll never forget the face of the guys that are on the loading dock and they see me in the truck and I'm backing up and I could just read their face going, oh, I hope she doesn't hit the dock. We survived it. And so all the way from that time to I've had a extraordinary amount of really great sales training through the years with Exxon Office Systems and various kind of sales programs and personal growth programs. So that kind of all evolved into Vice President of Sales and Marketing Support Systems for Health Systems International, which was a $1.96 billion a year company and about 2,400 employees. So great learning. I've been blessed that one of the people during that time of my life that I got to know and have stayed good friends with is a guy by the name of Howard Lewis, whose PhD is in education and computer-based training. And so I encouraged him to come over and join us from Apple Computer. And the deal was that he would run the department that I started, and then I would help him with kind of corporate interference. But he was to teach me as much as he felt like I could absorb. And he did. And to this day, 30 years later, he's still one of my major mentors. And he keeps nudging me along and nudging me along. So it's been a wonderful experience. Recently started a new company with Howard and with a woman by the name of Renee Default. And Renee is a PhD in environmental science and toxicology. And it's phenomenal, her background as well. So the three of us are writing a series of books that are they're targeted at, right now we're starting with 5 to 6-year-olds, but then also there's a parent manual and a teacher manual that goes with it. And so they're all together in one book, the child part in the front. And the purpose is that by teaching the child, then I can put more content in for the parent and then the teacher, that you have a continuity, an integration of knowledge there. So that's the goal. We started out with just getting them hydrated. I can't tell you how many kids and people and adults in my world are just not getting enough to drink of water. And then we're going to start off on taking off on some of the chemicals and additives and things like that. So we're very close to printing that first set of books. So I'm excited about that. And so I think when I look at where I am today, I spent 3.5 years in dialysis as a dialysis dietitian. And that was after my husband passed away from a rare form of bone marrow cancer. And he had been on hospice for like 18 months. So moving from that into dialysis was extremely emotionally hard, very, very hard. And one of the bright lights of it was at the very end, I had a patient that had been on in-center dialysis on the machines for almost a year. And then he moved to PD, which is peritoneal dialysis, where they have the tube in their tummy and they dialyze during the night primarily. And he'd been doing that for about a year. And he had such a deep, deep passion to get off dialysis, which I 100% understand. And he started doing his own research, and he discovered in his mind that he wanted to do a vegan diet. And that's what he thought he wanted to do. And I said, well, okay, let's do it. And we do vegan diets in dialysis. It's not common and many people can't follow it, but it's a vegan renal diet. And by golly, we got him off of dialysis. And I sat in the office the day the doc and him and his wife and the PD nurse and I all go, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. So he's now come from off dialysis to stage 4. His next goal is get to stage 3. I'm still his dietitian outside of the clinic now. And it's really taught me some very key concepts. And that is the passion of the patient is critical. And you really have to listen to that patient. And he and I butted heads at times, when I would see him go in directions where I'm like, nope, can't do that. We'd butt heads here and there. But, the bottom line is, as a dietitian, I don't get attached to any one diet per se. I'm attached to the individual and what that individual needs. And so I think that goes back to that whole concept around biochemical individuality. Where that comes in the Ren-Nu program is also critical. And I love the mindset we have in Ren-Nu that we use ketogenic diet because it's extremely effective. And over the last 3 to 4 years, I have done nothing but collect research papers on ketogenic diets. And I organize them by the topic. So ketogenic diets have become so well researched in cancer care, mental health care, CKD, PKD, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, so many things, ADHD, autism. I mean, there's probably not a topic out there that ketogenic diets aren't now touching into. So the science is becoming extremely strong. And I think that as we look at our program, the research is very good and it just continues to get better and better and better. And so I am so delighted and so honored to be working with you, with Thomas, with the rest of the team. We have a fabulous team. I mean, just a great team.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much for that introduction to your life and your career. I mean, very, very impressive. So much experience. And I mean, we really feel it here when you joined our team full time. The experience you bring is so incredibly valuable. We have so much to learn, and we're so glad that we have someone like you who brings that these different perspectives, not just like one particular direction fits all. Like, right, you bring this like really diverse point of view, and you really know that every person is different, and that not every food will work for everyone, and that's so awesome that we have someone like that on the team who can really help with that really personalized guidance. Because we really mean it here at Ren-Nu when we say we provide personalized guidance. It's that we have people on the team like Kathy who know what that means, and we will work with you to fit your life, and that's really really great. And you're also providing that kind of guidance to all the other coaches in our team, right, that are also doing that personalized guidance. So you're like at the very top, and you're helping everyone who's joining our team to really understand that perspective, and that our coaches, even if you as a patient don't work with Kathy directly, all our coaches are always talking to Kathy, and have that same point of view. So that's really important to us here at Ren-Nu. So we really appreciate having you on the team and providing that experience and expertise. It's really awesome. I guess I have a few questions. One that I think would be interesting to highlight is your relationship with physicians, your experience with physicians when you guide their patients and nutrition. What's your general experience with how someone's primary care physician feels about you giving personalized diet advice to their patients? Do you find you generally get supported, or do you have to kind of fight your way in there and convince the doctor what is needed for their patient? What is your experience there?
Well, I think the key is mutual respect. Mutual respect with the provider, whether it be a physician or a nurse practitioner. And so, like, going back to dialysis dietitians are probably one of the more technically oriented dietitians. And one of the things that we do in support of the patient and the physician is managing bone mineral disease. And the docs know that. And yet, one of the things that I've always been very respectful about is in the hierarchy of the world of medicine, the doc is the last word. They're the ones that set the tone. They're the ones that make the final decisions. And so really it's about mutual respect with that doc, with that nurse practitioner. I love working with the nurse practitioners because they tend to have a little more time. They're a little bit more open. It's more back and forth. But many of my docs, I love working with my docs. I don't have any problem with that. But I think that's because I have spent so much time and energy trying to understand where they're coming from and what their perspective is and being able to learn. And I'm sure there's been times in my career where they thought I was a bloomin' idiot. I'm sure that could have happened. But I think overall, when you are passionate about learning from them and learning and teaching back and forth, and it's a dialogue back and forth, then I don't think it's problematic at all. I think people that have problems with docs don't understand their role, their responsibility, my role, my responsibility. And so, like, even when I was doing bone mineral management or anemia management with our patients, there were times when I had to go back to the doc and go, this is a problem I'm seeing. This would be my recommendation. Do you agree with that? Are you okay with that? And they would say yay or nay or why not. And so it was really more of a dialogue. And I think that's where working with docs is important. Doctors in today's world don't have a lot of time. And that's the sad part of how our healthcare system has changed to where they kind of get allocated to a 10, 15-minute visit, when in truth, if they had a little more time with that patient, they could make a difference. And that's where the dietitians become extremely helpful. But at the same time, it's just that team effort. Like my PD nurse, fabulous PD nurses. I worked with one of my PD nurses was a 20-year Army ER nurse. And I tell you what, we loved working together because it was like, this is the way it is and this is what we get done. And yet she was so gracious and respectful and appreciative. But I tell you what, if stuff wasn't going right in the room or in the dialysis center, she had no problem, because she was an Army ER nurse, right? She had no problem addressing the topics that needed addressed. Same thing with the docs. So when you understand that and appreciate that about your team, and it isn't just the nurse, it's the techs. One of the things I had to learn in dialysis was stay out of the tech's way when they're putting a patient on and taking them off. And so, I had to learn that my time with the patient had to be synchronized around that dance. And then, of course, you have the person that runs the whole clinic. So I came out of dialysis work with an absolute passion to help prevent people from ever getting there, because it's hard. And I'm not going to kid anybody. It is a hard life, and it's emotionally hard. We do give them a gift of time. Sometimes they use that time very productively with family and friends and personal growth and whatever else they do. But it isn't just go to dialysis and get hooked up. It's not easy. So part of when I started first talking with Thomas and started seeing what you guys were doing in research and where this direction was going, I'm like, I'm all about prevention. If I can prevent anybody from getting on dialysis, then I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah.
Now, does that
yeah.
mean that the dialysis groups are bad? No, I think, dialysis has gotten its own bad rap through different things. But the truth is, those people in dialysis work their butts off. Those nurses are there for 12 hours a day, making sure that those people live through the day. That's a very hard nursing job. And, keeping it all going is hard. I don't know. There's no answer. There's no simple way. And many of the people that go to dialysis are PKD, which is part of why I'm so passionate about working with you all, and blood pressure unmanaged that they just ignored and finally got them. And then, of course, diabetes. Type 2 seems to be more prevalent even than type 1, even though I had type 1s as well. And then you'll have some exceptions to all of that. Some exceptions to why they got there. Maybe it was a surgery that went bad. Maybe it was cancer, and the cancer drugs killed their kidneys. I mean, there's a variety of things. But I'm all about prevention. And so, that's why I love working with you all. That among many other reasons.
Yeah. That's, of course, the primary goal here at Ren-Nu, right? Prevention. And we really think that what we're teaching can do that. We now have starting to gather lots of evidence that that's the case. So that's super exciting, and you're in the right place. And we are, as PKD patients, from a PKD patient perspective, I can say we're really, really lucky that you're here and can provide that experience to us. We're really, really happy.
Thank you.
I guess kind of my last question, or not question, but if you could just talk a little bit about what you specifically do when a patient first enrolls into the program. You of course get to see all the answers to the questionnaires we provide, and you see their labs that they share with you, and then you have those one-on-one meetings. Can you explain a little bit the process of what you do with the patient when they join the program, what you look for, how you help them, kind of, just your process of working with a patient?
Sure. Behind the scenes, I'm looking at labs, but I'm looking at kind of the whole picture of labs. I'm not looking at just renal labs. I'm looking at metabolic labs. I'm looking at hemoglobin A1Cs. I'm looking at vitamin D levels. I'm really looking at the totality of their labs and their kind of that window into their health. And then I'm looking at meds. I'm looking at what kinds of meds they're on, whether they're on a lot of high blood pressure medicines, because as you move into a ketogenic diet, you may need those medicines adjusted by your doctor down, which is really a good thing. I mean, the less meds, the better in general, but we don't want patients doing that for themselves. So working with the docs is important, and we have a provider letter that we have put together as a team for the doctors to understand what we're looking at and why we want to work with them. I would far rather pick up the phone and call the doc and say, okay, here's what's happening, and have them understand our program, and then have them manage the part of their patient that needs to be managed. And usually it's reducing some medications. So I look at that, and then I look at kind of where they're coming from. Like, for example, what part of the country are they in? What is a little bit of their history? What stage of PKD are they in? And eventually we'll open it up to a broader population. But for now, where are they in this journey? GFR was a cutoff for us somewhere in the general range of 30, but then I look at it and I look at the whole totality of that person. And if they're 28, 24, or whatever, I'm like, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's see if we can make this better for them so that their life is better. To quote, cure anything per se, but we certainly can improve their quality of life and improve their GFR and improve how they feel and their pain level. You know better than anybody how much better you feel when you're on this program. So I really have a very hard time saying no to anybody. In fact, if they're ready to walk into dialysis, I'm like, wait, come back here, come back here. We also, people that are typically vegan, we don't encourage it right now. But in truth, I could deal with a vegan if that's what if that's what we need to do, then we need to do that. So we kind of have loosely rounded parameters, and then I look at it and go, okay, can we manage this as a team? And yeah, we can. We typically are focused on stages 1 through 3, but there's a couple 4s in there that are actually in good health, and they need an opportunity to see if they can turn it around. So that's what we provide. The other thing is I look at kind of the team as a whole, what our needs are. We're getting ready to do a joint venture research project with Cleveland Clinic, which I'm super excited about, because that's just more, data and background and information that makes such a difference to those docs out there that are looking at what we're doing. And one of the things that when I was communicating to one of the docs while I was in dialysis, and I said, come over here and look at this. And I pulled up the Santa Barbara Nutrients website, and I went down to Dr. Richard Johnson, and I said, do you know who this guy is? And he started laughing. He goes, yes, I studied under him. I did my postdoctorate work under him. I started laughing. I go, all right, then you send your patients over to us, okay? And he goes, all right. So, I'm a kind of a mixture of behind the scenes selling docs and helping them understand the value of what we do, nurses, nurse practitioners, whatever, but then also helping patients see that there is a positive way forward. So that part. Then when I actually meet them one-on-one, that first stage is assessment. And so I've already looked at labs. I've already got a sense of where their numbers are. But I want to know from their perspective. I want to know what's going on and understand their life and them and in their head and what they think is hopeful. Most people have been told with PKD that there's no hope. And I'm here to tell them there is. And you know better than anybody that there is hope for improvement in their health. And so I really just want to know them from the heart level and how that connects. Because that's where real change can occur, is when people understand that you genuinely care and you genuinely want to see them better, then they listen better. It's not, okay, I have 10 minutes with you. I have an hour with them on that first visit. Actually, I have 3 visits an hour each. So I'm sure we'll find plenty to chat about because there's always something.
Of course.
So that's that part. And then behind the scenes, I'm working with the coaches, working to help bring in team members that I think can be valuable to our team, that can contribute. I just love the whole process. I am as happy as I've ever been in my career because it sort of brought it all together. And I get to work from home, which really suits my little introverted self. So, when I need a break, I go out to the backyard, take off my shoes and walk around in the grass for a while and water my plants. So that's kind of my break times.
Wonderful.
No office politics, which I think is fabulous.
Yes. Yeah. I work from home a good chunk as well, and I do love it.
Yeah, it works.
Well, that was a wonderful introduction to you and to what you do for the team. I'm happy with everything that you told us. I think you covered it all pretty well. But before we end this interview, is there anything else you would like to like some final words before we leave off today?
I think really just my final thing is for the people that take this journey with us to really, really get serious about what we're telling them and really apply it. Don't hold back. Really take it on and ask the hard questions and come to the office hours. We have office hours twice a week, and we have opportunity for you to meet with the team. We have recipes. We have so much for you to get out of this experience, that if you take it and run with it, the sky's the limit. Who knows? I mean, I can't predict somebody's health per se. I can contribute to it if they'll let me. But I think overall, it still boils down to the individual has to take charge of their own health.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kathy. It was wonderful talking to you today. And thank you for introducing your life and your experience. And I hope the audience knows you a little better now. And everyone who is going to join the Ren-Nu program, you can be excited to meet Kathy yourself very soon. And with that, thank you so much. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.